Hey everyone, welcome and cheers. A bit of a somber Sunday. Obviously, it sucks whenever the season ends. Obviously, in such an unfortunate way where the team doesn't make the playoffs. But immediately after the season finishes, the Coyotes and Bill Armstrong part ways with Rick Tocchet. I know I've made memes about Tocchet and I've announced my displeasures for Tocchet, but still a human being. Always rough to see someone not necessarily lose their job because their contract was over. But I just wish the best for Tocchet. Hope he lands on his feet quickly, and I'm sure he will. He's a very personable guy with the players and broadcast team. The broadcast team last night, Tyson and Matt were talking like Tocchet was leaving already. So I think the writing was on the wall. And the players liked him. I liked how Tocchet never threw any players under the bus. He was very honest in terms of just, the team not playing well, but rarely, if ever, actually, I would say never really called out a player or anything like that. Even in the last few games when the Coyotes were out of the playoffs and eliminated, his interviews, you know, he he was hoping that the new guys like Jans Yannick and Soderstrom, Ness, what have you, Bunting and Peterson, he said that these are moments that he's happy to see these young players come into the lineup and just prove themselves and see what they have in them. He was very, applauding of the effort and work of the young players coming into the lineup, especially Michael Bunting. And just the words he had for Soderstrom and Yannick in these last two games, it really showed how much he cared about the organization and hopes the organization goes into the right direction. But I feel like the Coyotes have, I think Tocchet outstayed his welcome. It was 4 seasons, peak Rick Tocchet, and like peak Rick Tocchet Coyotes hockey happened in October 2019 to December 2019. And then obviously Darcy Kemper gets injured. They acquire Taylor Hall, and the wheels kind of trailed off the 18-wheeler trailer there. And the Cows really never recovered. They recovered in the play-in series against Nashville. I feel like that was a huge moment for Tocchet. And I really feel winning that play-in round secured Tocchet's job for his last year in the contract, but also with John Chaika's departure and Bill Armstrong coming in, I just feel like it wasn't the right time for Bill Armstrong to rock the boat too much. It was a wise move to do the status quo in terms of the coach Rick Tocchet and just see what Tocchet has to offer. And Bill Armstrong was more in the camp of show me what you got. And this season was very unfortunate. They had a prime setup to make it to the playoffs. They had a 5-point lead over the St. Louis Blues about 3 weeks ago, and they just it just evaporated so quickly. And the Coyotes down the stretch were not playing good hockey at all. It was good to see them win, the last 2 games of the season, but they really dropped the ball hard, and it was a very depressing and just bad hockey out of the Coyotes and out of Rick Tocchet. As a fan, you don't really know where to put the blame, whether the roster deficiencies and the dysfunctional roster is to blame. Obviously, it takes some of the blame, but also Rick Tocchet is part of blame too. And I feel like Tocchet didn't really earn an extension. I just feel like it was the end of the contract, time to move on, try a new coach. I feel like he didn't show much to earn an extension. And I feel like that's fair and valid. Winning the play-in series was honestly the best thing he did for the team in the past 4 years. The first 2 years were an uphill battle with a new roster. And then the third season, like I said, October to December 2019, the Coyotes were first in the Pacific. The ball was in their court, and they just fell off the cliff, and it was a bad fall. and terrible hockey in the beginning of 2020. Luckily, COVID got them into the play-in round, and they showed up in that play-in round. That wasn't a gimme series like all the analysts. All the analysts had the Predators winning that series, but I knew the Coyotes would probably come out on top. They had to play hard, play good, and they did play well. And then that Avalanche series, obviously, it was a hard team to beat, and they kind of got embarrassed. But this season, it was another uphill battle. But there was a moment, like I said, where they had a 5-point lead to hold that playoff spot, and again, they just dropped the ball and played terrible hockey down the stretch. A lot of bad hockey games and a lot of bad habits coming out this season. The Coyotes had terrible first periods. They were the worst first period hockey team in the entire NHL this season. Even these past two games, Friday night, they didn't show up in that first period. They went down early and they went down 2-0, and it wasn't until Soderstrom's goal where the team woke up and started to play good hockey and they win the game. It just, for some reason, the Coyotes were taking very long to get their game started this season, and a lot of those times when you're facing good teams like Minnesota, Colorado, or Vegas, those teams are way too good to sleep in the first period, and so many times the Coyotes dug themselves too big of a hole in the first period, and it was just impossible to claw their way out of it. Not sure where to put the blame there. The leadership group I disagreed with this season. Jacob Chychrun really showed that he deserves to be on that leadership team. So did Connor Garland. I hope the new coach kind of resets the leadership group. It's not a gimme for OEL that he gets captain next season. Who's going to be the guy in the locker room that motivates the team? Who's going to be the outspoken guy? Who's going to be the emotional and passionate and hungry and urgent player like we saw Chychrun and Garland do in the last 10, 15 games of the season? Because we didn't see that out of OEL. And so I hope it's not a gimme for Ekman-Larsson to be captain again. I'm not saying he deserves to be traded or anything like that. I just feel like this new coach better come in and really reevaluate, who's the leader on this team, what voice needs to be amplified, and which voice needs to be listened to other than just seniority. I'm sure there's going to be so many videos this offseason. This is just a raw, off the cuff. I'm hearing reports close to the team that the Coyotes will probably go after a younger, less experienced coach, which I would disagree with. I would want an NHL established coach who knows how to win, who knows how to motivate players, who knows how to give offensive confidence to young players and give young players confidence to play with skill, because I feel like that was missing out of Rick Tocchet's game. Obviously, my first pick would be Gerard Gallant. I still have no idea why he was fired by Vegas. They went on like a little skid or slide in 2019 where I guess they were playing bad hockey for 5 or 10 games, and they fired him immediately, and then they hired Pete DeBoer, and the Vegas Golden Knights are still an amazing hockey team. I'm not sure that's all credit for Pete DeBoer. Vegas was amazing before him, so I'm surprised Gallant hasn't gotten a job since he got fired. My other picks would be, if they go for a rookie, inexperienced guy, it would be Mike Van Ryn, who's currently on the St. Louis Blues assistant staff. You might be familiar with that name because he coached the Roadrunners, I believe, for 2 seasons. He was the first ever Roadrunners coach. So he has ties to the roster, ties to Arizona, obviously ties to Bill Armstrong, because Bill Armstrong was the assistant GM for St. Louis when they hired Mike Van Ryn. They might promote within. Jay Verity was promoted to an NHL assistant coach this season, but he wasn't on the bench and we didn't see much of him, so I'm not sure how much input he had. But obviously, Rick Tocchet was so adamant not to call up AHL guys, because it took them like over 35 games to call up Michael Bunting and Lane Peterson. I'm sure Verity had talks with Tocchet where he's like, Bunting and Peterson are really good players. Give them a chance. Put them in the lineup over guys like Fasching and Chaput, Gauthier, Hunt, John Hayden. It took Tocchet way too long to put Bunting in the lineup, and once Bunting was in the lineup, all he did was score. Peterson was a great fourth-line center for the team. And like we saw the past 2 games, Soderstrom and Yannick are going to be the really good player for the Coyotes for a really long time. Really impressed by both their games, the last 2 games of this season. So I think that's it. That's all I have to say. I wish the best for Rick Tocchet. I'm going to miss the memes. Even though I was parading that, the Coyotes need to move on, I guess it just hits you hard when it actually happens. It's always hard to go through some change in real life, and obviously as a fan, you feel naked and exposed, and uncomfortable, shaky ground, but it just makes you better in the future and makes you better in the long run. And it's great that the Coyotes are starting off this offseason immediately with a job of getting a coach, hiring a new guy, hiring a guy that they want, hiring a guy who knows what he's getting into, and before the draft, and then during the draft, making the moves, and with all this cap room in the offseason that Bill Armstrong has, him and his new coach can both convene and discuss where they want to take the team forward, what type of players they want in the lineup. They need top 6 scoring talent. They got a lot of good supporting cast. Maybe get away from these anchor guys like Hunt and John Hayden and Fashion and Chaput. Sprinkle in those Roadrunner guys in the bottom 6, but you got to get a top 6 winger. Maybe you try and get that first line centerman, but that's really hard. I know Gabriel Landeskog, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and David Krejci are free agents this offseason, but they carry a heavy price tag with them, and they deserve a heavy price tag. So we'll see. There's a lot of things that could happen. It's going to be a huge offseason, and it's the first day of the offseason, and we already have a coaching change. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be hype, and hope you guys stick with me. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. I got the season reviews coming this week, so stick around, and thank you guys for your support. See ya.